This is CBC Here and Now.
The post-budget announcements continue today with the Dementia Care Action Plan. What the plan does and doesn't promise, I'll have that just ahead.
19,000, 26,000, plus a watch which was 38,000, tax included.
A credit card scam cost a business in Mount Pearl some big bucks. The owner is now warning others so it doesn't happen again.
We punched in.
Another difficult day for dolphins, this time in Dildo, Trinity Bay. And it's the same old story. A massive field of ice comes ashore, and these creatures get trapped.
They can't navigate ice, they won't swim underneath ice any distance, and they die real fast in it.
It's pretty crazy to see and witness the dolphins in the ice and how everybody's kind of coming together trying to help.
That story coming up.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. The Seniors Advocate is warning that many elderly people in the province can't afford food and medicine. Today, Susan Walsh released a report following consultations with many seniors asking about their concerns and potential solutions. Here and Now's Peter Cowan joins us live in our St. John's newsroom. So Peter, what are the findings in this report?
Yeah, Carolyn, the survey was completed by more than 900 seniors across Newfoundland and Labrador, and it highlighted some of the struggles that they face. Let's take a look. For example, when it comes to the cost of living, 32% of the seniors who filled out that form said they don't have enough income to meet their financial needs. So how are they managing? Well, for those seniors who don't have enough, 40% of them said they can't afford healthy food to eat. 1/4 reported that they couldn't afford to buy things, and just less than 1/4 said they couldn't afford utilities, so things like heat and light. Susan Walsh says the cost of living continues to rise and many seniors are falling behind.
Those incomes have not kept pace with inflation. They just haven't, which is why we're asking for the seniors benefit to be indexed. And because they haven't kept pace with inflation, and they don't see raises like, some of us might in their salaries, then they can't afford the cost of living that they were able to afford on the same amount of money. The cost is going up, and they don't have any extra resources to offset that cost.
So some measures to help were included in the recent provincial budget, like the senior supplement, which went up 5%. But Walsh points out that only means a maximum of an extra $72 a year, and it's still not tied to inflation. Another concern that seniors raised in the survey is a lack of housing. In the budget, the province also promised hundreds of new housing spaces. But Newfoundland and Labrador has the fastest aging population, with more seniors than young people. And the advocate says improved services are going to cost the province more.
The cost to ensure seniors are well cared for is a cost. However, we spend lots of money on lots of other items. And do not seniors deserve to be well cared for in their senior years? They've given to the province, they've created the province.
Now, this report was designed to look at what issues seniors are facing, but it doesn't lay out specific recommendations. The senior advocate says that's going to be the next step, so expect another report with more concrete ways that she'd like to see the province address these concerns. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
The health minister announced a new plan for dementia care today, one that includes support for people living with dementia as well as those who care for them. Here Now's Henrika Wilhelm has more.
Show you the cover because it is an impressive document.
Here it is, the new Dementia Care Action Plan. $35 million over the next 3 years, 36 action items to be implemented over the short, medium and long term.
The plan is aimed at increasing awareness and improving supports and services for those living with dementia and their care partners.
Every journey is different, but today we're here to announce the positive things that we are doing to move forward in helping them live better in the community and in care facilities.
Over 10,000 people in the province are living with dementia, a number expected to rise by 43% by 2030, up to 14,500. The plan includes better access to geriatricians, expanding the home dementia care program to keep more people living in their homes longer, and improving education requirements for home and personal support workers.
One of the actions is for all healthcare providers to have some basic understanding of dementia, but then those who work daily to have advanced training.
Not mentioned, recruitment and retention of those workers.
I will say perhaps stay tuned because we'll speak to that issue a little further into the future, but we do understand for the Home First program to be successful, we need more people working with individuals to keep them at home.
The idea of a dementia plan isn't new. It was first introduced in 2016 as part of Dwight Ball's The Way Forward. 2019, public consultations took place. So why the delay?
I would put it in one word: pandemic. The pandemic took the focus of many of our staff within the department.
The plan is supposed to be fully completed by March 2026, and to support it becoming a reality, a Dementia Action Council was formed last summer, and the feedback from about 500 people was considered. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Still with healthcare, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner provided an update today on the status of its investigation into the 2021 cyber attack on the province's healthcare system. Investigators are waiting for health officials to respond to questions about the attack. They expect to get those answers by mid-April. Then it will take weeks to decide whether any further steps are required and ultimately issue the final report on the cyber attack. Privacy Commissioner Michael Harvey has stepped back from the investigation because of his past roles in government. The investigation is now being led by another senior official in the Commissioner's office.
Good evening, I'm Heather Gillis filling in for Ashley Brawweiler tonight. And what a glorious day it has been here on the east coast of the island. So much sun, only a couple of degrees, but really felt a lot warmer with that beautiful sunshine, and it will continue tomorrow. But first, this evening, it will be cloudy, but if you are in central Newfoundland, there will be a chance of either snow showers or some flurries for you tonight, but that's the only part of the province that should see precipitation really this evening. Tomorrow, sun and some cloud, so it's looking like another lovely day depending on where you are. But as we head into the weekend, Sunday, it looks like we will have some rain. Let's take a look at those high temperatures that we saw today. Absolutely gorgeous. 7 degrees in Terra Nova and in Marystown, 6 in Badger, Twillingate and Lassie. Of course, cooler on the southwest coast and up into much of Labrador today. Let's take a look at our future tracker now. This is what we will see, lots of cloud, and things will clear off as we head into Friday. We'll have a better look at your weather coming up next.
A scathing report in Nova Scotia today denouncing the RCMP. This afternoon, nearly 3 years after 22 people were killed, an inquiry into the country's worst mass shooting delivered its final report. It found police failed to warn the community, depriving people of potentially life-saving information. After 7 months of witness testimony and thousands of pages of documents, the Mass Casualty Commission released its 3,000-page final report, which carries 130 recommendations. Commissioners took aim at the RCMP's response on almost every level: its lack of preparation, communication, and leadership. It also focused on what it calls an epidemic of domestic violence and the role it played in the rampage. The Prime Minister was in Truro today.
Obviously, I thank the commissioners for their comprehensive work, looking at all aspects of what happened and how we need to move forward. We will take the time now to properly digest and understand the recommendations and the conclusions and the opportunities that the Commission has put forward for us to take up. There's no question there need to be changes, and there will be, but we will take the time to get those right.
And we'll have much more on this story ahead. Reporter Blair Rhodes will have more on today's report and the recommendations made. I'll also speak with a St. John's lawyer who's been representing several women's groups at the Nova Scotia inquiry. That's ahead in about 25 minutes on Here and Now. We have new details tonight on a story we brought you earlier this month. CBC News has obtained a copy of Vianne Timmins' Inspire Award nomination form, an award by Indigenous people for Indigenous people. Timmins was given the honor in 2019 for her work to help advance Indigenous education. Now, she said she initially turned down the 2019 award. That's despite having signed the application form 2 years earlier. Here in Now's Ariana Kelland reports.
This is what Vianne Timmins signed in August of 2017. It's an Inspire Award nomination form. And at the top, nominees have to indicate if they are First Nation, Métis, or of Inuit ancestry. Now, in this case, Timmins specified having Mi'kmaq heritage, something she has said many times before, making clear distinction. She says that she has never claimed identity. But here, under this declaration, she also attests to being recognized with an Indigenous community. Experts in Indigenous identity say being recognized by a community is often significant and can outweigh other factors like blood quantum. So, which Indigenous community was she referring to? Well, Vianne Timmins did not respond to our request for an interview, but for years her online bios and resume noted she was a member of the Brador Mi'kmaq First Nation, a group unrecognized by the Union of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq and the federal government. That group now tells us they don't accept Timmins as a part of their group either, and they offered other details. They say her membership ran from 2011 to 2013, not 2009, like Timmins told us. It's not clear if she was referencing Brador in her nomination, since she hadn't held a membership with that group for at least 4 years. Inspire hasn't answered multiple calls and emails, but the Independent's Berry Grounds podcast did hear from them. Journalist Justin Brake says they told him in early February that they had reviewed Timmins' nomination records and were satisfied she met eligibility criteria. Now, Timmins apologized 2.5 weeks ago and went on a voluntary 6-week paid leave. Meanwhile, there is still no word from Memorial University on its promised Indigenous-led roundtable, which would lead the discussion on the issues of identity. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
A Mount Pearl business has been scammed out of around $100,000. The NL Gold Factory thought they had sufficient precautions in place for payments over the phone, but it turns out they were wrong. Police are investigating, but as Here and Now's Jeremy Eaton reports, the owner is speaking out to help prevent others from getting ripped off.
Rohit Verma and his family immigrated to Newfoundland from India about 6 years ago, and soon after opened up a shop in Mount Pearl. In November, he got a call from a guy in Montreal who says he saw his jewelry on Instagram. Then they agreed on a sale.
He gave me his credit card 10-digit number plus expiry date and CVV, and we punched in all the information on our terminal and the payment was approved. Then I request this customer if you can send me the photo of his credit card front and back. He sent me the photo and I requested for a photo ID, so he sent me a photo of his driving license.
Verma double-checked to make sure the payment went through and was told that he had done more than enough. So he sent the first package. A few days later, he got a follow-up call looking for more jewelry. They walked through the same process again. Same card holder name, but different credit card number. Both through RBC. In just over a week, he bought 4 items.
19,000, 26,000, plus a watch which was 38,000, tax included, then another chain which was 15,000.
Then he got a call from RBC.
This card is not belongs to the person you are telling me the name and address. So this is a fraud. This card has been cloned. You should contact with the law enforcement.
At this point, the last item sold was en route to Quebec. His friend went to the police there, gave them the address, but according to Verma, nothing was done. The RNC has been in touch with Verma and says it is an active investigation.
And we are transferring this case to the Montreal police and they will investigate this case now.
The Gold Factory has refunded the money, but the jewelry is still missing.
Total amount is 100,000, which is tax included and definitely our profits and everything.
The Gold Factory has now added additional security and fraud protection when taking payments over the phone, and it has implemented a new policy.
That one thing we learned from this incident, Like when you do payments like this from a stranger, you don't know them personally, it's the best way to do a video call with them, so that you can see the person in front of you.
There is also hope that something can be done to recover their losses, or at the very least, Verma says he hopes this prevents other businesses from getting scammed. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Well, the price of all fuels is up today except for propane. Drivers are now paying over 6.5 cents a litre more at the pumps. That puts the price of a litre of gas on the Avalon Peninsula at $1.68. It's $1.70 in central Newfoundland and as high as $2.07 in southern Labrador. Diesel is up by just under 2 cents today, while furnace oil is up by about 2.5 cents and stove oil has increased by nearly 1.5 cents. Propane is down by about 2 cents a litre. Well, it is turning out to be a deadly spring along our shoreline for marine mammals. There's another incident of ice stranding and killing dolphins, this time in Dildo, Trinity Bay. Here now's Terry Roberts was on the scene today.
This massive field of Arctic ice pushed into Dildo Harbor overnight, and as it moved closer to shore, it drove these white-beaked dolphins ahead of it. Initially, more than a dozen of them found refuge here, an open section of water about 10 feet deep, a man-made breakwater and pier in Dildo Cove precariously keeping the ice at bay, a space not much larger than a backyard pool. A rescue was launched this morning. Fisheries officers with the help of local volunteers. They coached 3 dolphins to the shore and placed them inside these sleighs. They were moved in the bed of pickup trucks to ice-free Placentia Bay, a 30 to 40-minute drive. Local residents putting their own safety at risk in an effort to save the dolphins.
I don't mind cold water. I'm a scuba diver, so I don't know. I just wanted to help, and it seemed like they needed somebody in the water, so I threw my suit on, and I'm good to go.
And onlookers hoping for the best.
It's pretty crazy to see and witness the dolphins in the ice and how everybody's kind of coming together trying to help.
Heartbreak, really. We like to save what we can, and it's hard to see, but the more we save, the better we feel, so we just hope we can save a few more.
But the relocation effort failed. The 3 dolphins perished on the shore of Placentia Bay, so rescue efforts were halted. The focus on keeping the ice away from the dolphins, with concerned citizens hoping for the best.
Maybe it's a sense of adventure, a sense of community. I mean, just look around. Everybody here wants to help.
Scenes like this are not new. It's the 7th time this spring that fisheries officers have responded to such strandings in Trinity and Conception Bays. Some rescues have been successful, but it can sometimes be a death sentence.
These animals are totally stressed, right? They're in a place, they know what they're into, they can't navigate ice, they won't swim underneath ice any distance, and they die real fast in it. Peck ice is considered natural mortality for them. There have been hundreds of these lost that we know of in ice over the years, hundreds of them, and God knows how many are out there somewhere.
These dolphins can stay here for several days. The question is whether the ice will move off and open a path back to the open ocean or invade their temporary sanctuary. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Dildo, Trinity Bay.
You kind of got to experience it. So you really got to come. Put your butt in that theater seat at the LSPU Hall.
A new stage show in St. John's is combining comedy, science fiction, and drag. We'll take you to a rehearsal with drag collective The Femme Fatales to chat about their new show and the importance of trans and non-binary visibility. That's coming up.
And in the weather, rescuers there in Dildo probably really taking a look at the wind. We'll talk about that and a lot more after the break.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus prize deadline is midnight, Thursday, April 6th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
All right, time for a look at the weather with Heather. But before we get to that, we have a video to share with you. Just have a look at this. This comes to us from Brendan Gould. It was shot lunchtime yesterday in Port aux Choix Harbor.
Wow, those boats are really cutting through the ice there, aren't they?
They are for sure. And you got to have a up-close look at some
ice breaking. Yeah, that's right. About 2 weeks ago, Chelsea Jacobs and I, a shooter here, got to go out on the Louis S. St. Laurent, and that is the Coast Guard's largest icebreaker, and we got to go out through the Narrows and see a lot of ice when we had all that ice in the harbor. It was a really interesting experience.
Yeah, I bet.
To see how they do their work.
A lot of talk about ice lately too. That story that Terry Roberts had earlier in the show about the dolphins being trapped yet again.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure so many people are really keeping their eye on the wind right now. So let's take a look. So right now we're not seeing a whole pile of wind in the province, which is unusual for us, of course. But right now the wind is westerly there in the Cove in Dildo. And overnight, I was just checking online, and it looks like it's going to be southerly. So it's going to push the ice and the water kind of in towards the shore in that cove there before it flips around to be an easterly, which will push it out right down here in this part of Trinity Bay tomorrow. Is that enough to give those dolphins some breathing room? Not sure, but so many people keeping an eye on that tonight and into tomorrow, especially those rescuers working hard to make sure those dolphins survive. Taking a look though now at our current temperatures across the province, taking a step back from today's highs where we saw a high of 7 degrees in Marystown and into Terra Nova, 6 degrees in Lassie and Badger and Twillingate. So about 4 degrees in Terra Nova now, and 1 in St. John's and on the Avalon as well, and up in Labrador. Temperatures into the negative region down there on the coast, 1 in Labrador City, Churchill Falls, and Happy Valley Goose Bay. Taking a look at the wind chill, because tonight, as we go into tonight, our temperatures are still going to be, above 0, but when you factor in the wind chill as we go through the overnight, it will be pretty chilly with wind chills from, -10, -12, -14 in the overnight for the eastern part of the island. Already in that range in Makkovik in Labrador, feeling like -4 in Labrador City Wabush area right now. Taking a look at our future tracker right now, what we can see is cloud and overcast on some parts of the island, and it looks like we could, in through central here, see some either flurries or some rain in the overnight. We have a 40% chance of seeing that, even though we will have some cloud in the overnight. Pretty well, as we go through the night, it'll be a cloudy night for pretty well the entire province. But going into tomorrow, it looks like we're going to have a beautiful day, mix of sun and cloud, mainly sunny for central. It's going to be a really nice day, just like today was. Now, if we look at our forecast for tonight, we'll reach a low of -8 and some cloud in St. John's, -7 through central Newfoundland and Marystown. A little colder here in Port aux Basques at -1. And, temperatures not too bad for much of Labrador and into Labrador City, -12. You will see a few flurries here in Labrador West as well, in addition to some flurry rain mix, whatever you may see in central Newfoundland. Going on to our future tracker for tomorrow, when you wake up tomorrow morning, not too much to talk about, fairly quiet in the weather. So we'll see a clearing trend as we head through Friday. TGIF, as you get to 1 o'clock tomorrow, it should be pretty nice for most parts of the province before we get some cloud moving back in for a mix of sun and cloud on Saturday. Taking a closer look at tomorrow now, it should be as warm as 5 on the southern Avalon, Placentia, and Ferryland, 1 tomorrow, and mainly sunny in St. John's, 4 in Bonavista, and 4 in Marystown. As we get in here to the Terra Nova area, 4 degrees pretty well from Terra Nova right across through Central, 5 in Harbour Breton with a mix of sun and cloud. As we head a little further west now, 5 in Burgeo, the Humber Valley, Corner Brook, 6 in Stephenville. Just a beautiful day with a mix of sun and cloud for most parts of our island. It feels like spring is finally here. As we head up to the northern peninsula, it's going to cool off a little bit too in Port au Choix. We will see a little bit more cloud as we head into St. Anthony and into the Straits. Some cloud there in Marystown, but you will see a hint of sun. A nice day in Cartwright, and as we head on up to the main part of Labrador here, looking like a pretty nice day, except some cloud in Labrador City Wildbush area. You are the exception with Churchill Falls there as well. Now, we will take a look at your long-term forecast a little later in the show. Stay tuned.
Well, it's a mix of sci-fi, comedy, musical theater, and drag. A group known as the Femme Fatales has a new show premiering tonight at the LSPU Hall in St. John's. Here now's Aoife Alaba dropped by rehearsal for a look behind the scenes.
When the audience watches the show, what type of noises do you expect them to make while watching?
Well, precisely this. Return to Planet Phlegm is a musical, but we're not singing. It's a story of love and adventure in space.
The Femme Fatales are St. John's iconic drag collective, and we are a all-trans, non-binary drag collective working here in St. John's, Newfoundland. Of course, several of us may know Ermagerd from Canada's Drag Race Season 3.
Welcome aboard the Decade Pigeon. Please, take your seats.
Our goal is to produce a show that you wouldn't be able to see anywhere else. So it's like, you kind of got to experience it. So you really got to come, put your butt in that theater seat at the LSPU Hall.
In this story where most of us start out feeling quite alienated for various reasons that bring us to the ship. And over the course of the production, you know, we laugh, we live, we learn, and ultimately we find family that we choose.
Why do you think now is an important time to put up this production?
So we're going to get heavy for a minute, but there are over 400 pieces of proposed legislation going in the United States right now that are targeting trans people and especially trans youth, gender creative folks. And as a PASL of gender creative folks, we think that putting on a production that has political undertones but is primarily about celebrating queer and trans joy is in itself a quite radical act.
I try to create the kind of art that I wanted to see when I was younger. And when I was younger, I was very much like figuring myself out, figuring out my own relationship to gender identity. And I think that productions like this are important because they spread a message of joy. And we want other people to see what we do and feel bolstered by it and feel like there's a spirit of community.
You can see us at the LSPU Hall Thursday, March 30th, Friday, March 31st, Saturday, April 1st, and Sunday, April 2nd, which is a relaxed matinee performance at 2 p.m. If you're not in St. John's, you can also catch us for the live stream with the LSPU Hall on Saturday, April 1st.
Yeah, baby.
Returning now to the Mass Casualty Commission in Nova Scotia and its final report into Canada's deadliest mass shooting. More than half of today's 130 recommendations deal with policing, not just in that province, but right across the country. As CBC's Blair Rhodes reports, commissioners looked at the root causes of violence and how police and other agencies failed to act.
Commission Chair Michael McDonald says it was not their role to assign blame.
However, we do not shy away from declaring hard truths and accountability. We identify them precisely so we can learn from them and do better.
One of those hard truths was the confusion surrounding RCMP operations that weekend. The Commission says there was no clear command structure and that officers in the field weren't sure who they should be dealing with. The Mounties were also ill-prepared for what they were dealing with. The Commission found that RCMP policies on crisis like this were out of date and their training was inadequate. They trained for a static situation in a building, not a gunman driving around shooting people at random and leaving fires in his wake. While their internal communications were flawed, their communications with the public were even worse. One vague tweet on the night of the 18th and nothing more until the next morning. And a delay in telling people that the gunman was driving a replica RCMP cruiser. McDonald was asked whether he believes the RCMP understands the need for change.
I can say it no better than Officer Campbell on the stand when he apologized for failing and saying he would do better.
I apologize for failing.
He, in a very heartfelt way, said to the world that we failed you and we'll do better. And he's a high-ranking RCMP member.
But Campbell is gone, transferred to New Brunswick. The same is true of every other senior Mountie who is in charge in April of 2020, up to and including Commissioner Brenda Lucky. They've all either retired or been transferred. Her replacement offered an apology of sorts.
I'm deeply sorry for the unimaginable pain and suffering.
But Duhaime stopped short of apologizing for what the Mounties did that weekend, saying they did the best they could with what they had. Duhaime says he needs more time to study the Commission's recommendations, but he's committing the RCMP to making the necessary changes. Michael McDonald says he's optimistic that his Commission's report won't join others gathering dust on a government shelf somewhere. He says that's because he expects stakeholders, including the families of the 22 victims, to hold people's feet to the fire to make sure that this time something is done. Blair Rhodes, CBC News, Truro.
Well, as we just heard, one of the objectives of the report is to address the root causes of domestic and gender-based violence. And that's something St. John's lawyer Erin Breen has been calling for. She represents a coalition of women's groups that took part in the inquiry, and she joins me now. So there is a lot to digest in this report, but that idea of violence prevention looms large. How are you feeling about the recommendations?
Carolyn, our coalition is pleased by our initial scan of the report. We haven't had a chance, obviously, to review it all. It's massive. But it appears that the Commission did take our submissions quite seriously and have adopted largely what we were looking for into the report. So our coalition was really looking for a move away from this default carceral response that we have for gender-based violence that has been completely ineffective to a non-carceral response, meaning putting more funding, support to the community-based organizations that are on the front lines of and to create community solutions, as opposed to always relying on police and corrections for a reactive solution. So we were very interested in looking for that shift, and I think that the Commission has strongly supported that.
Mm-hmm. And can you talk a bit more about your submissions? Because I know like early education was something that you really pushed for as well. Is that something that you saw coming out of these recommendations?
Yes, so I did see that. So yes, the Commission has strongly recommended compulsory education in our school system. Starting from kindergarten, going all the way to grade 12 on these issues of gender-based violence, misogyny, everything related. And we really do have to create a shift this monumental. It's an entire societal shift Education is key, and we have to start when kids are young in order to turn this tide. So what the Commission has advocated for is a public health response to gender-based violence. And they talked about equating the social determinants of health with the social determinants of community safety.
And of course, it's one thing to make recommendations, but it's another thing to actually turn that into action. How much of an impact do you think this report will have, and how confident are you that it will actually lead to change?
Oh, anytime there's an inquiry, that's the question. These recommendations are not binding; they're just recommendations. So how do we make sure they are implemented? The commissioners were very strong on the fact that, in this particular case here in Nova Scotia, you had the most horrific tragedy. You had 22 people lost, a woman with her unborn child. The lives that were changed forever by this act, this community is forever changed. So, for this to mean anything, for those lives not to have been taken in vain, implementation and asked for these family members. I'd also note, this is a joint federal provincial inquiry, and a lot of money was spent here. The Prime Minister was present here today, the Commissioner of the RCMP. I'm hopeful that's a sign that, they're listening. There are timelines and recommendations about implementation itself. So, I mean, we have to hope, but we also have to act now.
Well, Erin Breen, we will watch to see what happens with this next, and if action is taken. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carolyn, for having me. I appreciate it too. Thank you.
Well, now, if you or someone you know is struggling in any way, there is a number you can call. You can call 211 or visit 211.ca. 211 offers help 24 hours a day in more than 100 languages.
Narnia is a story that people have known for years, so it just works beautifully when it's taken from page to stage.
Centaurs and fawns, and of course the great lion himself. This weekend, Kittiwake Dance Theatre brings to life the magical story of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They'll tell us about the challenges of adapting this classic children's story. Well, this Saturday, Kittiwake Dance Theatre will debut its latest production. It's based on C.S. Lewis's famous children's series, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, at the St. John's Arts and Culture Centre. Now, adapting the story of Narnia has some challenges, including figuring out how to bring the character of the great lion Aslan to life. Have a look.
What I really enjoy about working with a group of dancers is that their energy and their skill sets really bring a new element to the way that we create and the dance that we're trying to tell the story through. So we work together with the dancers to build up their character, to kind of unify the group and tell the story through their own personal strengths and abilities. There's a lot of details that need to get fine-tuned right at the end of the process. Transitions between scenes, and of course once we get to the theater, kind of figuring out our big set pieces and adding in the element of costuming and things like that.
The significance of Aslan in our play was really to bring the grandeur of that character. So we asked Jamie Skidmore, who creates Puppet, to work with us to create a creature that was way bigger.
It has taken a lot of rehearsal to make sure that we don't have any collisions between dancers and the men that are operating the Aslan puppet. Finding their pathway through and the choreographing the little moments has been a big thing that we've worked on. And also, of course, making sure that all the dancers on stage are aware of where Aslan will be and when, and so that we don't have any kind of collisions or issues that way.
Being inside that costume is a very, very hot place to be. So if you can imagine going to a steam sauna, that's pretty much what it would feel like for the two fellows that will be underneath there. And you're crouched down, so it's squatting the whole time as well. So it's quite an event to get this thing going.
Oh, it's very exciting when dancers really nail the choreography, when they start to elevate the vision of the production. Bringing everything to life is a very exciting feeling as a co-choreographer, because you start to see something that you imagined for quite a long time really coming to life in front of you. It's a wonderful feeling. There's a lot of pride in that, and also joy that we get to share it with others as well.
Narnia is a story that people have known for years, so it just works beautifully when it's taken from page to stage and is reimagined through live performance, through ballet, and again through the whole collaboration with all of the artistic team.
I hope the audience has a visceral experience of what it is to come to see live performances, to see live musicians playing while you have live dancers dancing. So many things are done now virtually that I think that it's important that we go back to a place where people kind of go and meet and feel things together.
Well, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is on this Saturday at the St. John's Arts and Culture Centre. Now, there's an evening show of Narnia with the orchestra, as well as a matinee. It's an all-ages show. You can contact the box office for more information. Ottawa is considering restoring funding to the country's largest sports organization. The government cut Hockey Canada's funding 9 months ago after a scandal involving payments linked to sexual assault complaints. The federal sports minister demanded proof that government funding was not used for the alleged payments and access to an investigation into the incident. Hockey Canada says it has now provided all of the information. It's been called the richest amateur sports group in the country, with nearly $8 million a year in funding. A criminal investigation into the alleged incident continues. Well, to Germany now, where King Charles is on the second day of his visit, his first foreign trip as monarch. Today, he became the first member of the British royal family to address German Parliament. Well, the King's speech in both English and German was met with a standing ovation. He paid tribute to the historic ties between the two nations and praised the support each country has shown Ukraine since the Russian invasion. King Charles' trip comes as the UK seeks to strengthen ties with the EU after Brexit. Tomorrow, King Charles and the Queen Consort Camilla will visit the northern port city of Hamburg on the final day of their trip. Well, this next story may bring back some memories. Hopeful gamblers from across the country are flocking to a tiny Ontario town with a big lottery and a possible record jackpot tonight.
I'm going to win it, I know that.
What are you going to do with it?
Oh, spend it, pay off my kid's mortgage.
Somebody said about a half hour from the arena to getting your tickets.
What do you think about this?
This is great. I live in Hagersville, so it's great. Yeah.
Have you heard of people like coming from out of province or? Really?
I heard a couple of weeks ago, I heard people had taken a plane in.
Yeah, in Hagersville, Catch the Ace lottery has hit a new record, a $1.76 million potential payout. For more than 10 months, there have been weekly winners, but so far no one has picked up the golden card, the Ace of Spades. And tonight, with only 8 cards left in the deck, there is a frenzy of interest. More than 80,000 tickets were sold in a week. That's in a town of 3,000. Most of the money raised will go to community groups. Hagersville is a 90-minute drive southwest of Toronto. Well, a great big book sale is underway in St. John's, from fiction to biographies and books for children. The Great Big Book Sale is hosted each spring by the Canadian Federation of University Women, and what a crowd there. More than 40,000 books are up for grabs at bargain prices. Proceeds go mainly to scholarships. The sale kicked off today at the Avalon Mall and runs until Saturday.
It's a real booster, really, because people come, they can buy whatever books they want for a couple of dollars, and there's such a large variety here, and they go away with carloads of books. And we say jokingly that it's going to be very quiet in St. John's the next day because everyone's reading.
A couple of little notes on that. Masks are required at the Great Big Book Sale, and entry is $1. And you can tune into the St. John's Morning Show tomorrow on CBC Radio to hear more about that annual fundraiser. A lot of people, a lot of books.
That's right. And if you picked up any books, well, Sunday might be a good day to stay in and get cozy and read them, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very nice day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tomorrow.
How about Saturday, though?
Saturday looks good. Tomorrow looks pretty good as well, so let's take a look at our long term. So for Friday evening, like we saw earlier in the weather, that clearing trend is going to happen on Friday. Give us a pretty nice day there on Friday and into Saturday. So on Saturday, it looks like we're going to have a mix of sun and cloud for most parts of the island, especially here in the East Coast, with temperatures on the Avalon in St. John's at 4 degrees, 3 in Gander and Marystown. Nice day in Grand Falls, Windsor on Saturday with a temperature of 7 degrees, like we saw in Terra Nova and Marystown today. A little cooler down on the southwest coast. Mix of sun and cloud in Corner Brook, but we'll see a little bit more cloud here. And as we head up the northern peninsula, we will see a chance of flurries on Saturday. We'll see that in the Straits as well, and some flurries across most parts of Labrador except in Cartwright, where it will be a mainly cloudy day. Looking ahead, Saturday night, overnight into Sunday, you saw that this system here push through with a little bit of snow, bit of mix possible, followed by some rain. Taking a look at Sunday, it looks like we're going to have rain pretty well island-wide. Warm temperatures though, 7 degrees in the east, 9 in central, 6 in Corner Brook, but getting chillier as we head up into Labrador, where this precipitation for you will likely fall as snow instead of rain. Some flurries there in Lab West at -10. Taking a look now further afield, Friday, Saturday looking nice. That rain on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday looking good too. And our forecast in Central and the West looks pretty well similar. We're going to get that rain on Sunday. On up into Labrador, we get a little bit more precipitation for Lab West. 3 days of flurries there before you see the sun. Same thing in Eastern Labrador, but your flurries will be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so right through the weekend for you. Taking a look now at our picture of the day. That's in Flat Bay out on the west coast, and that comes to us from Brian Berger. And if you'd like to send a photo, you can do so at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Ah, springtime sunset. It is certainly starting to feel like spring, and I'm liking the look of this forecast over the next few days. Milder temperatures, maybe cut down on some of that snow.
That's right.
Island, so.
It's very hopeful.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's it for us on this Thursday evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.